How's it going, guys? It's In the Money. I was going to leave BlockFi and FTX alone and all that. I had said my piece in my last video, and they f***ed you. They f***ed you over. There's only so much toxicity you can throw into a space and criticism and all that before everyone already gets the point, you know? But they keep saying stuff that just drags me back in.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in.
Particularly Meet Kevin. Now, this video is originally, and I'd already recorded it, was originally a video patting him on the back for starting to do the right thing. On November 26th, he tweeted, "If you think creators who were sponsored by FTX should donate to a relief fund for those affected, retweet to show your support and demand action." He says there should be transparency. Creators should not hide. I warned of the collapse before and apologized after. I made a mistake. Creators need to own it. I've already thought about it before I even tweeted this. It's not fair to the people who lost money with FTX and BlockFi to lose their money and for the YouTubers to keep it. It either needs to go back to their community or it needs to be donated. It just can't stay in their pockets. It's not fair. But in his next tweet, which came after I made a video saying, "Good job, Meet Kevin," he says, "Low interest from the community in a relief fund I propose for FTX victims. Why do you think that is?" Very curious and surprised. And some of the options include, they gambled, their fault. It's Saturday, ? And move on. There's only one option for do the relief fund. Obviously, doing the relief fund had the minority of votes because most people were not affected by the BlockFi and FTX collapse. Most people don't care. And a lot of people are toxic on Twitter. And if someone made a mistake, they want to just kind of crap in their face. And so that's why you get the majority of people saying they gambled, their fault. When in reality, it's a bit more nuanced of a situation than that. I'd say the majority of the responsibility falls on the shoulders of the people who are financial YouTubers who are recommending these kind of products to people. Because financial YouTubers should have basic understanding of finance. And I know these guys understand what FDIC insurance is, which is insurance by banks to protect your money in case of insolvency. And they know what SIPC insurance is, which is insurance for brokerages to protect your money in case of insolvency. And they knew that these exchanges and platforms were unregulated. So I think most of the blame falls on their shoulders for being financial influencers when they didn't know the basic thing about finance, which is these things are not insured by any party. And you should not be funneling your subscriber base's money into something that is not regulated at all. And so he's very surprised, like, where's the lack of interest? It's because it's this portion of your subscribers who got screwed. It's not this portion. So there's an illusion of a lack of interest, but really the people who want their money back want their money back. And so I would say the right thing to do is disclose how much you made through the FTX and BlockFi sponsorships and try to give back to your community or try to give it to some charity. Maybe do a poll and have them vote on charity and give it away. It can't stay with you. It cannot stay with you when your subscribers who built you up and made you who you are, which they say in their videos, "I would not be here without you," that you guys get hung out to dry and they get to keep the millions of dollars. Now, Meet Kevin says that he lost money, $450,000 or something in BlockFi. But did he actually lose money overall? We don't know because they won't disclose how much they made through BlockFi and FTX. I doubt it because in an interview with Yahoo Finance, Meet Kevin says he made $2,500 every single time he mentioned FTX in the video. So my guess is that the amount of money he made through sponsorships is so egregious and surpasses $450,000 by so much that it would make you guys puke in your mouths. In addition, he won't disclose it because now he'd be outing himself that, yeah, technically he lost money, but overall he's net positive. He actually didn't, he only got slightly burnt, but overall the sponsorships paid him more money than he had actually on BlockFi, would be my guess. It would be refreshing to see some sort of financial influencer step forward, disclose how much money they made, and either donate it or give it away. On top of that, he made a video recently saying that in the weeks leading up to the collapse of FTX and consequently the lock of withdrawals of BlockFi, he was warning everybody to get their money out of BlockFi.
It's like, you can't trust what these companies are saying. This is why for a week to 2 weeks prior to BlockFi going bankrupt, I've been screaming on the channel and on Twitter, get off the exchanges. Hopefully you were able to heed that advice.
Which is probably true, but it was also true 2 years ago.
It's not entirely clear that their money is being lent out. It's surprising to me that it's taken them 9 months to talk about this. But state regulators say some interest-bearing accounts linked or with billions of dollars in deposits appear to be unregistered securities that aren't disclosing their risks to investors. The warnings come out of states like New Jersey, Alabama, and Kentucky, which are among the states which have brought actions against BlockFi and its affiliates. Which, by the way, if you want to sign up for BlockFi, make sure to go to metkevin.com/BF. BlockFi.
So he's well aware that there was some suspicious activity, or at least something that raised some red flags, and yet continued to sponsor it because who cares? I want the money. So Meet Kevin is using a Twitter poll as his moral compass, which I find disgusting. You should not be using Twitter as a gauge to direct yourself morally, and not try to do some sort of dance to figure out what makes you look good in the light of the people. Because what makes you look good ultimately in the light of the universe is that you do the right thing. And the right thing is to disclose how much money they made. All these people that have built him up to be who he is, he's just taking a massive dump on by using this Twitter poll as a backdoor to no longer feel responsible for the BlockFi and FTX event and let it blow over, which it will ultimately blow over, which is too bad because the majority voted, they gambled, their fault. And so now Meet Kevin has a backdoor where he doesn't have to address it anymore. He feels like, okay, the minority of people care, so I'll just move on. When in reality, the minority of people care because it's a minority who were affected. So do the right thing, in my opinion, Meet Kevin, which is disclose how much money you made and donate it or give back to your community. Or if you feel like you were half responsible, donate half of it. Make some sort of argument. Just don't hide, especially when you say we need transparency. Creators should not hide. There's no transparency here. It's all fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy. There's no transparency here whatsoever. Don't just say you're going to be transparent and not be transparent. What does the transparency even mean if you're not disclosing anything besides I'm sorry? There's nothing more epic than watching someone do the right thing when it's hard. Like there's this one guy on a CNBC interview where he talks about a certain stock.
Yeah. So, well, Upstart's up about 25% just in 4 days since we bought it. We bought it on about 4 days ago. So that's actually made a nice little move in the short term, probably a little extended right now, but longer term, that's a good looking name. Very powerful, very strong earnings. These stocks are acting
What do they do?
really
I don't
well.
even know them. What do they do?
Excuse me?
What does Upstart do?
Well, I'm sorry.
What kind of company is it?
Yeah, I'm not. You're breaking up.
Oh, well,
Sorry
I guess
about that.
we've got an audio problem there, Mark. I'm sorry.
And the guy didn't have an answer. But how epic would it be if he had just said, I have no fucking clue. I have no idea what the company does. And he says, I've ended all sponsorships, which is really just a knee-jerk reaction, thinking like he's trying to figure out what the right thing to do is for people. But sponsorships aren't necessarily bad. For example, this video is sponsored by Options AI. Options AI is a new type of brokerage that quite literally takes the legwork out of options. For starters, right off the stock chart, you can see the expected move, so you know where people think the stock is headed in the future. You can base your trades off of this useful information. And let's say, for example, you're bearish on SPY. When you look up SPY and select bearish, it'll automatically generate trades for you. You can select which trade you think is best, and then you can click and drag the strikes around to choose exactly what fits your risk profile. They also provide valuable information on earnings. When the earnings call will be, what's the expected move for that earnings call, and they also show little mini stock charts of previous earnings so you can see what happened after previous earnings calls. They provide earnings news, company info, they send out educational content constantly. There's literally so many features on here it's impossible to go over it in the amount of time I have. Now, if you're not ready to use their brokerage, it's fine. If you already have your own that you like, it's totally okay. You can sign up for all these features without actually signing up for a brokerage account. So that way you have access to everything I just explained to you except entering the trades on their platform. If you use the code ITM, you get 1 month of free trades, or if you sign up for the subscription service, you get 10 days of a free trial as well as 15% off. One more tweet from me, Kevin, and I'll move on. We're just going to brush right over the fact that he has an ETF called PP. I would not make any recommendation on that. But he says, Jerome Powell's panicking. He realized the bond market's yield inversion is so bad. Based on history, we need to cut rates 500 basis points soon. That's 5%. Back to zero to avert a deep, dirty recession. Prepare for a glorious Fed U-turn and massive deflation. And to this tweet, I replied, how much Adderall do you take every morning? Because the idea of the Fed backpedaling so hard that they would cut interest rates to zero would be mind-boggling. When the yield curve inverts, when they start paying higher rates to bonds that have nearer term maturities, it almost always is a precursor to a recession, but it doesn't mean that there has to be a recession. And so he's saying it's so inverted that it's so bad that there's going to be such a deep, dirty recession that we have to cut interest rates all the way back down to zero where they were when we started raising interest rates when inflation started going up. Which goes grossly against what Jerome Powell said in his last talk, where he talks about how he wants to slow the increase of rates, and then he's going to hold them for a certain period of time until he feels that inflation has fallen back to their target rate of about 2%. The Fed has a dual directive. They have a dual mandate. They have to keep inflation low, so price stability, and they have to keep unemployment low. So they're trying to do this balancing act where they're trying to lower inflation by raising rates, but not push us too deep into a recession so that unemployment becomes very high. Unfortunately, when you raise rates, you increase the likelihood of a recession, which increases the likelihood of unemployment, but it also brings inflation down. So it's kind of a really blunt instrument that they have to use. However, I don't think we're going to be going back to zero interest rates anytime soon, because like Jerome Powell said in his most recent speech, he said that if we start cutting rates too soon, history has shown that inflation will become entrenched and it'll start the wage price spiral, where people start asking for wages, higher wages to compensate for the increase of inflation. And that causes more money to be in their hands to spend, which increases inflation, which increases ask for more higher wages. And it just spirals upwards the prices of goods and services. And so Jerome Powell has been pretty firm, I think, in his last speech about holding it until they reach their 2% target for inflation. And that history has shown that if you let off the gas as far as interest rates go too soon, then inflation can become entrenched, and that it'll give time for the wage price spiral to commence. Now, it's entirely possible. I won't make any predictions. They react based on whatever new economic data comes in. I'm not going to say what they will or won't do. Like, they could cut rates. It's entirely possible. New economic data shows that we're having massive deflation and that the economy is starting to cool off way too much to the point that unemployment is rising. They might start cutting rates. But to assume that Jerome Powell needs to cut rates back down to zero instantly, in my opinion, shows a lack of understanding. With inflation at whatever it was last, 7.7%, and I know it's lagging, but still to cut interest rates down to zero is going to shoot inflation to the moon. And then what are you going to have to do with rates? Now you're going to have to really launch them up to a grotesque level, and now you're going to have an even deeper recession. So yeah, it's likelihood that there's a recession coming, but that might not be a necessary sting to bring inflation down. I'm not going to give anybody specific advice, but me personally, I would stay away from someone who names their ETF PP. I would just be very hesitant to that. And there's two lessons to learn for the financial YouTubers. It's one, shut the fuck up, and for the people watching, to do your own due diligence. All right, guys, that's it. I love you so much. I'll see you in the next one, and the money is out. Peace.